Good evening, everybody. Ed Hiscock. I'm really new to the board here at the Bellwether. And tonight I had the privilege of meeting for the first time Sarah Sally Bird. And I'm so not worthy. And also, the points that have been made about leadership and the strength and the conviction. I also made the mistake of asking Sarah, is there anything you'd want me to mention when I introduce you tonight? There was a list. So these things, let's see. No, didn't want me to talk about that. Oh, I can talk about this. So one of the things that I wanted to offer was I didn't have the privilege of working with Sarah. And Sarah also was lamenting a little bit an opportunity to work with all of us. She served in the Department of Defense and served in that organization for 30 years. And in her capacity at the DoD, she started as a procurement agent and rose to the position of Deputy Chief for Supply Operations for the DoD and served in that capacity for about 10 years. And in that capacity, did some really amazing things that I can't talk about. She'll share with you in a minute. But just to give you a sense of scope of what we're talking about here. So Sarah's accountability at the DoD, she was responsible to supply some 130 hospitals or healthcare facilities around the globe, on the planet. She had to not only serve those 130 hospitals around the country, around the world, but she also had to be ready at a moment's notice to deploy 200 field hospitals, deploy 200 field hospitals, and supply those hospitals when and where they're needed across the world. And she had about 425 folks in her downline that supported her. And that was one of the criteria that I had, is that Sarah wanted to make sure that I told you all that it was not Sarah. Although I beg to differ, it was her leadership certainly, but she gave credit to all 425 of those folks. Nope, can't talk about that. So a couple of the awards that Sarah gave me the opportunity to share with you guys. Obviously, HPN, many of you probably saw that several years back. She was recognized in HPN for materials management leadership in '96, I believe. And Sarah's no stranger to Hall of Fame inductions. She is in the Defense Logistics Agency Hall of Fame. She has won several awards for her civilian service. And in the military, there are words offered like meritorious, exceptional, and distinguished associated with Sarah. And those are words not offered lightly by our military. She is an honorary member of the Army, a medical regiment bestowed upon her by a Surgeon General of the Army. And, oh no, I can't talk about that one either. There's another one she'll tell you about in a minute. But let me just bring Sarah to the stage by offering a couple of quotes, largely from the Defense Logistics Agency, that were bestowed on her as she accepted these many awards and recognition for her career. Conceptual thinker who led the shaping of the electronic tools that moved the medical war readiness planners into the 21st century. Visionary leadership, I think if you Google that, you'll get a picture of Sarah, because it came up time and again in the recognition she's received. Long and distinguished career was another very frequent, but this was my personal favorite. Sarah's accomplishments were perhaps exceeded only by the number of her admirers. So please join me in welcoming Sarah Sally Bird as a 2017 honoree. Sarah?
Bellwether League officers, directors, fellow inductees, past and present, ladies and gentlemen, it is with a great deal of humility that I share my healthcare supply chain leadership story with you tonight. I also have laryngitis. I assure you, I will be candid, I will be brief, and I will be gone, hopefully in that order. Leading up to the first Gulf War in 1991, I was the deputy director of the Department of Defense's medical supply chain. Our mission was to support logistically our men and women in uniform with medical material of all types. In preparing for that task, I oversaw the meticulous purchase and storage of $650 million worth of medical stocks stored at fixed locations throughout the United States, Europe, and Korea. We thought we had adequately planned for the worst, and we thought we were ready for any eventuality. Like so many good military plans, ours did not survive its first encounter with reality. As the hundreds of thousands of troops deployed to the region, the medical orders began to cascade in through an endless array of ordering channels. Within hours, we knew we had a problem. The military clinicians were not ordering the stock that we had so carefully positioned. Over the next 6 months, we worked day and night to purchase and deliver 92% of the demands we received from our warfighters. All of our diligent planning and investment in static stocks covered only 8% of the orders. Our static stocks were a monument to logistics stupidity, and I was among the prominent and proud owners of that monument. After the war, we decided there had to be a better way. I had a small team which included representatives from each of the services, which looked at other federal agencies and the commercial sector. We found they had long ago moved ahead of us with just-in-time resupply methods, trading investments in logistics systems and velocity for static storage. To make a long story short, I spent the next 9 years of my life knocking down bureaucratic barrier after barrier to transition the Defense Department's medical supply chain from traditional depot storage model to just-in-time supply. My team awarded contracts to large commercial prime vendors, names you will recognize: McKesson, Cardinal Health, AmerisourceBergen, Owens & Minor, to support the U.S. warfighter every day and in every crisis. What we proved is that we could harness the logistics prowess of the U.S. commercial sector to support the seemingly unique needs of the Department of Defense and provide logistics response faster, better, and way cheaper. Over the next 5 years, our delivery response times went from 30 days to the next day in the U.S., and from 60 days to 5 days overseas. Our investment in static stock dropped from $650 million to less than $100 million of medical items we just couldn't find in the commercial sector. We cut our government workforce in half, and we set in motion a concept that has made the medical supply chain the DoD poster child for continuous process improvement. At that point, Vice President Gore and the president of the Ford Foundation presented us with its Innovations in Government Award. As we expanded and converted both the product lines and our customer base to e-commerce, we grew from $1 billion in 1992 to $7 billion in 2016. This has required major information technology initiatives implemented over the years to enable the continued transformation to just-in-time support. To sum it up, the medical supply chain has increased its sales sevenfold while cutting its staff in half. Its costs have dropped 85%. Its delivery times average 1 day, and its customer accommodation rate is consistently over 99%. It has the lowest distribution fees in the entire medical industry, and the Office of Management and Budget classifies the programs as the best in class throughout the federal sector. That's my short story, and this is the takeaway. In the logistics business, you're either running at the front of the pack or you're falling hopelessly behind. If you're at the front, you can see the future ahead of you and make adjustments. If you're running behind, your view never changes. All you will ever see is the butt end of those pulling ahead of you. Thank you.